Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Kiri-Ai the Duel from Lucky Duck Games. As the name implies, Kiri-Ai the Duel is a two-player game. A two-player game which players are playing as samurai who are fighting head-to-head in a game of rock, paper, scissors as you try to outthink, outwit, and outmatch your opponent. In the game, you're going to be given your own hand of cards. You're going to have 5 cards that are your own. Some of them move, some of them attack. You're also going to be given one of these orange cards over here, these special attacks, secretly, randomly. So I know the one I have, I don't know the one my opponent has, and this is discarded face down to the side, which means I know one of the 3 cards, and my opponent has one of the other 2. So you have some degree of knowledge, but not a perfect amount. In the game, players are going to go ahead and choose 2 cards to activate one after another. So for example, let's pretend that I go ahead and I say my first action is going to be this one over here, my second action is going to be that one over there. So I have my 2 actions over here that I'm going to play. Then from there, we go ahead and take a look at my opponent. My opponent's going to go ahead and shuffle up their hand. We'll do theirs randomly so I can't predict around what's going to happen. And they're going to go ahead and do that card and then that card. So this, then that one. Okay, we'll do the first cards first over here, and we'll go ahead and resolve the actions. So we flip them over here like so, we flip them, and we see what happens. I go ahead and resolve a movement. I'm going to go ahead and be moving towards my opponent to close the distance. So for example, I move up 1 on the battlefield, I'm now a few steps away from my opponent. My opponent, on the other hand, decided to strike 2 away, which would have worked had I moved 2 forward. Had I tried to aggressively close the distance, they would actually be striking me right now, but I didn't. I only moved 1 forward, and this attack over here, it shows their position, which is 1 over there, a gap of 1, and then where I am. These cards are not always the easiest to read, but they make sense once you're used to them. So over here, and also they have to do the strike while in a high stance. There are 2 stances on your card, high stance and low stance, and over here, this card has to be a high stance attack, which they're currently in, which means they swung and missed at that zone, which is not the best for them. But then again, these cards were all chosen randomly because we're showing you how to play and not playing tactically. Over here on my end, I'm going to go ahead and reveal the next card, and we'll see what happens. This one is, they're going to reveal their card. They went ahead and they moved 1 forward, and then I swung across, which can be done in either high or low stance. So again, you can see myself, my position, my opponent's position. I swung directly across, which again would have worked had we been actually next to each other, but we weren't, and so in this case that didn't work. There was never a chance that was going to work, by the way, because you can't actually move 3 forward. That's the price of playing cards randomly while teaching a game. But that's going to be how that plays. From there, players are going to go ahead and return the first card they played to their hand. So I get this card back. Actually, that was not the first card. They played this one first. And then players are going to go ahead, and I played this one first over here. So we're going to return those. And the second card is going to be set off to the side, out of play for 1 round. You'll get it back later, but it's going to be lost for 1 round. That's going to be a round of Kiri-Ai. Let's go ahead and play tactically this time. I'm going to go ahead and choose mine with actual logical intent. Maybe, he says. If we do that, we can do that. If we do that, we can do that. Let's go ahead and do that to do that. He has that, which means that's not likely. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and play this one over here. Why, you say? I don't know. We're just going to go ahead and show you how to play. So I'm going to play this card first, and then this card next over here. And then I'm going to shuffle up theirs and play them randomly because that's just what we're doing right now, to teach you the game. So we're going to play this card first, and this card second over here. And then over here, let's go ahead and flip these. So I flip this one first, and then this one first, and you always resolve movement first. So they went ahead and swung again. They again tried to swing at a distance of 1, but not only am I not at a distance of 1, but I actually chose to retreat this round, so I stepped 1 back in case they swung, in case they try to close the gap and go after me, so we missed that. We're going to resolve our second cards, and our second cards, I chose to change my stance over here. This could have been a movement 2 card, moving 2 forward aggressively, but I chose to change my stance, which means I go ahead and I swap to the lower stance over here, and they go ahead and swing at a distance of 1. Fortunately, I've stepped back, and I'm no longer in that range. So once again, I'm safe from their attack. That's basically the process of Kiri-Ai. Every single round you pick 2 cards. You resolve them one at a time. You always resolve movement first. You return the first card played back to your hand. You leave the second one aside. You return any cards from a previous round. Managing 2 hands is a little bit more confusing than you'd think over here. I think this was their first card played, so that's the second card. This is my first card played. This goes back to my hand. And you go ahead and continue that process until you strike your opponent. Now when you strike your opponent flips to the alternate side, showing that they have 1 hit on them. And when you strike them again, that's when they'll go ahead and lose. Which is where you have these special cards over here. These special cards give you powerful one-time attacks over here that have a little bit more flexibility, but the key word is they are one-time attacks. Once you use this, it's gone, and your opponent knows what's there, and they know a little bit more about how to avoid them, so you want to carefully choose the timing when you think it's most advantageous to use one of those attacks. But effectively, it's rock, paper, scissors. You try to think through, are you advancing? Are you retreating? Are you changing your stance? How do I attack? But you're always doing so 2 actions at a time, so it's not a pure rock, paper, scissors, it's not a pure dance of avoidance. It's often, do I pounce forward and attack? Do I retreat and then worry about your advance? All of these things are present. There's a few small rules as far as what happens when you're moving further than you can, because you never cross each other on the battlefield. So there's some rules as far as movement and things like that. But basically, in Kiri-Ai, you pick 2 cards, you resolve them one at a time, you return one of them back to your hand, have one out of play as you try to outwit your opponent, thinking through not just what you think they're going to do, but what you think they're going to do because of what they're thinking you're going to do, and how you work around that little game of rock, paper, scissors, or wine in front of me, as you figure out how to win in Kiri-Ai the Duel. Which brings us to a review, starting off with ease of play. I mean, it's a mostly very easy game to learn. I'd say the only thing that's really a critique or a problem in terms of the ease of play department is these cards, I don't find them intuitive, and I can't say, like, everyone I've taught the game to, they don't immediately come across as intuitive. They have this nice little dash over there, which has nothing to do with the actual card. That's kind of representing a strike. You know, hey, you have a strike across the card. Does it mean anything? No, it doesn't. It's just it's a visual representation. The problem is it makes the card have a little bit more information on it, but now you just have like these lines over here, and you have these sections of, well, this is me, and that's you, and the only thing that matters is just showing that it's one distance away, and you can only do that attack while in that stance. So they're not that hard to actually understand, but they're not intuitive, I think, is the key thing. Once you understand how to read these cards, you can pick it up, but they're definitely not intuitive, and it's a little bit like, okay, it means this, it means that. You can have the cards you play in either direction over here, so this is either an advance one or retreat one, depending on which way you orient it. So I'd say the cards are very elegant looking, but not immediately intuitive. But past that, that's the only real complaint I have. The game is, you know, a short, quick, simple game. It's rock, paper, scissors to a degree, just with a bit more going on behind it. So it's a very easy game to teach up and play, past the non-intuitive graphic design aspect. And again, I think it looks nice. I just don't think it's immediately intuitive. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking. Oh, and then as far as game time is like, this is like a 15-minute game. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which gets to focus on those cards again. The card quality is excellent. Not just the graphic design in terms of the way it looks, but the card quality. You can't see this on camera because that's the way cameras work, but this is a nice card. Like, it feels premium. It feels like there's, like, I'm not even sure if I want to sleeve them. They're that nice as far as the cards go, and that's as far as I can go in the card component quality, because you have this nice little pouch over here. I mean, it's a small micro game. There's only so much I can talk about as far as the actual, you know, components over here, but they did do a good job with what little they had to work with. I'll say, though, that it's a clean, portable mini game. It's a clean, portable mini mind game. The entire game is all about trying to think, or more specifically, outthink your opponent. You're going to look at what they're doing. You're going to think through what makes sense for them. You're going to pay attention to the card they have out of play. You might have a drop of information about, you know, the special attack card they have, and you think through how they're going to operate, and then you think through how you want to respond to that, because how you respond to that is going to determine whether you outwit them and strike them, or whether you just step back and change your stance and prepare for the next round. There's all these different things as far as the ways things will work out, and it ultimately comes down to thinking through, I think you're going to do this, so I'm going to respond with that, just working on multiple levels. To me, the main thing that I appreciate about the game is the 2 steps at a time aspect. If this game had you playing a single card at a time, I think it would resolve to a bit of a stalemate and just not a fun experience, but more of an avoidant experience. The fact that you have to plan out 2 cards at a time means I'm not just thinking through, do I want to move or attack or step back? I'm thinking, I think you're going to do this. So if I step forward, then I lower the distance, and now I'm within closing distance range. And then if I strike you at the same time, depending on how you play things, I might be able to land a blow. And so it is a very satisfying opportunity when you have that play out, when you sit there and you think through those 2 steps, and you go ahead and you strike and you advance, or you strike, you retreat and you strike. How you balance all those things is a very rewarding experience when you actually land those blows. The 2 steps at a time aspects of Kiri-Ai, to me, is the main thing that makes this stand out. It's kind of rock, paper, scissors. If in order to cast rock, you'd have to have done something else. But so now you're not just doing rock, paper, scissors. You're doing, you know, 1 and then followed by rock, and then 2 followed by paper. And you have to think through how that plays out, and it works very elegantly as far as giving you not a lot of decisions, or not a lot of design, not a lot of rules overhead, but a lot of thinking through how you want to operate and how it'll work towards your advantage in the game. As far as things I don't like in the game, I wish there was more to the system, and I understand why there isn't, but like the most basic example I'd say is, I wish there were, like, you know, 7 special attacks or 10 special attacks, and though I do think the way they should work if you were doing that would be that you pick any 3 each game, and then you show them the 3 that are available, and then you shuffle them up and go through that, because the problem with 10 is that you can't think through how your opponent's going to react. But having a variety of special attacks that you can incorporate or mix in, or even special abilities, I think there could be more to the experience. As it is, it works really well at what it does, but what it does is so minimal. There's a very limited amount of what this does. It's basically a better rock, paper, scissors in your pocket, which is fine, but I want more to the system, because as it is, I really appreciate it, and I think it does a great job, and we'll get more to it in final thoughts, but it's limited in terms of what it actually gives you to work with, and it's just the nature of it trying to be a micro game without a lot of change to the system. I'll say that the art cards as well, I covered this already in the ease of play, but the art cards are not intuitive to read. These are, how you strike, how you blow. The movement is a little easier, a little better to understand, but the blow system I always find I really have to, you'll get a few misplays. The good news is you can reset, because it's a 15-minute game either way. And as far as what I can see others not liking, if you don't appreciate rock, paper, scissors as a concept, if you don't appreciate the mind games that come with trying to outthink your opponent, this game is all about that. This game is exclusively about the mind game. And so if you don't like the mind game, if you've played games like, Stratego, Lord of the Rings Confrontation, Flash Duel, Coup, BattleCon, any of these games that are all about the mind game, if you don't like that, there's not a game here for you. That is what the game is. As far as final thoughts on Kiri-Ai the Duel. Kiri-Ai, I think I say Kiri-Ai every time, but it's Kiri-Ai the Duel from Lucky Duck. As far as final thoughts, for me, I really like how well the game works, but my biggest complaint is there's just not a lot to it in its current form. For me, it's a 3.5 out of 5 when I'm rating it as a full package. If I'm rating an individual game, if I'm ranking this as how much fun I had the first time I played it, then it would be a 4 to 5 easily. It's a good game. It's really strong. The only problem is I just don't think that there's that much game in this box. I think this is a lovely game to play when you have the opportunity. If you're in a board game cafe, if your friend has a copy, I would recommend you jump on the opportunity to play this game when you can, because it's really, really satisfying for 5 games. And then after that, it's just basically a slightly more complicated rock, paper, scissors. So I do like the game, and I think they did a great job with it. I have to account for the fact that there's just not a ton of game here, and so for me as an overall package, it's a 3.5 out of 5, even if it is one of the better rock, paper, scissors duels mechanisms that I've seen. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, Coup. If you want a game that's going to give you a lot of bluffing and mind think in a whole different package, I think Coup is still a fantastic game that is worth checking out. And if you're looking for a game that's going to give you that duel system in a much more fully fleshed out system that is both more overwhelming, but also gives you more to dig your teeth into, I highly recommend BattleCon from Level 99 Games as a very intricate system that relies on some degree of that rock, paper, scissors mechanic, but with a lot more going on behind it. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.